Awesome, thank you. And I'm just going to pull up the little video, or Wanda, if you don't mind, on slide 3, if you don't mind throwing that on there for us today.
Step into Wix Studio, the web platform for agencies and enterprises.
All right, of course, I didn't have it.
The land plays a big factor in who we are. That's what makes us strong. That's what makes us strong people.
Growing up, my grandma always told me that the land took care of us, and it still is taking care of us, and it never asked for anything back.
It is a way of life to always honor the environment. It's not something that you just can turn on and off. It's a living daily lifestyle.
And with that, I just want everybody just to kind of, so I see some people that are outside, some people that are inside, but if you can just ground your feet a little bit to the ground, to Mother Earth, and close your eyes for a minute and think of a time maybe in this summer that you'd like to reflect back at, where you were grounded with Mother Earth and it was quiet and it was still. And I just want you to take 10 seconds to go back to that moment. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. My name is Jackie Ratkovic, and I'm here with Wanda, and together we are going to do this session together. Wanda's going to take the lead. I'm going to be in the chat and then answering any questions. And so that if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat. I work for Learning Network, which is up north, up in Treaty 6 area, and by Cold Lake, Alberta. And I'm very pleased to be here working with Wanda today just to help you out. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll let Wanda introduce herself.
Thank you, Jackie, and welcome everyone. We're really happy to see everyone with us here today. Wanda Deckent, I'm joining you from the Treaty 7 area. I'm just a little bit south of Calgary, close to Black Diamond, Alberta. And we are very excited to be here with you guys. Our emails are on these slides, which we'll share a link with you in a moment. So if you do have any questions that come from the information today, please feel welcome to email Jackie and myself. So we're going to jump right into the meat. We talked about in the write-up, Jackie and I we got together and we said, let's have a look through all the resources that we have and different things we've shared with teachers and things that people have said they found very useful. And so we've taken those resources and we thought about, in these resources, what would be useful in the very beginning of the school year. So just as you're starting your first few weeks of math, what would be helpful in setting the tone and the culture and getting ready with your students? And the 5 areas of focus that we're really looking at today are building trust and beliefs, inspiring curiosity, promoting collaboration, establishing expectations, and looking at the specific math activities that are chosen. And some of these, it's like, you're like, hey, we do this all the time. It's like, yeah, you do, and it's super important. And today we're looking at it with sort of the twist or the lens of math over top of this. So in these companion slides, Jackie will put the link in the chat for us in a moment. Just like we like to get to know our students, we'd also like to get to know you guys quickly and briefly of who's here. If I escape for a second, the companion slides, and thank you for adding that, Jackie. If the link cooperates, it should take you to a Google Doc that looks very similar. It just has a slight blue background. So if you're in the slides with the blue background, you're in the slides that you can edit and type on, and you'll have a copy of these slides to take away with you. And these slides have the links to everything that we're going to share today. So as long as you have that link, you'll have all the information. And slide 2, there's our emails. You can connect with us later on if you would like to. And on slide, you guys are like perfect mind readers. I see people jumping to slide 3 and 4. Yeah, and you're welcome to do this a couple different ways. You can type your name, you can move, you see those green check marks that are off to the side? They're like stacked, they're like a pile of check marks. You can slide a check mark over so that it fits in the column that you're representing today, either if you're teaching or supporting in some way. And if slide 3 is too busy and too full, slide 4 is the same thing. It just gives you more space to type. So slide 3 and 4, add your name, add a check mark, whatever works for you. If it's not cooperating, just type in the chat of Zoom and we'll see you there. And if we know who's here today, that just helps us know how much time to sort of spend on different examples, etc. So while you're adding your check marks, on slide 5 and 6, what these slides are is, one of the really great things about being together in a group of people, and we have like 91 of us here together, is that there's so much experience and wisdom in this group. So as we're talking about things, if something sparks or you're like, hey, I have something that I do that I love that I think other people will appreciate, feel welcome to type it in this chart. You can directly type in here. You can also type in the chat of Zoom. And later what we'll do is Jackie and I will go back and we'll take all the ideas shared in the chat and we'll move them to this chart. So later, when you come back to your companion slides here, you'll also see the information shared from your colleagues. Okay, so please feel welcome to use the chat all through our hour together, the chat or these documents. Yeah, exactly, like someone's typing right now. And if you have a link to that slide deck you use and you're willing to share it, add the link in, that would be awesome, etc., etc. So totally able to learn from each other. Oh, and Michelle, yes, if you showed up after Jackie posted the link, she'll just repost it for you in the chat, and then you'll be able to access these slides. And then the little trick is, of course, if you're trying to type, you have to be typing on the actual slides, not on the screen where I'm showing them, if that makes sense. Yeah, exactly. There's always a twist there. And again, if something doesn't work, just type in the chat of Zoom and we'll see your information there as well. Okay, so thank you for doing that. So let's see who is here. Okay, yes, we have a really nice mix of people. Some kindergarten folks, bunch of grade 1s, lots of grade 2s, grade 3s, and some other. Okay, welcome. I'm thinking maybe coaches and admin. Fantastic. Yep, grade 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Okay, welcome you guys. You are in the right place. Okay, so starting our year off, focusing on these 5 areas. Well, what we're going to do is the first idea that we're really going to emphasize, again, is something that you do often, and that's getting to know your students. Now here with the math twist, getting to know your students, if I just jump back for a second, can help address and support really all of these 5 areas. So if I pop here, there's a few different, sorry, I'm just going to move this annotation maybe, clear it off for a second. Oh, that's okay. There are many different ways, of course, to get to know your students. One thing I really love is that there's a neurologist. He's a child psychiatrist. Dr. Bruce Perry is his name. And what he talks about is he talks about relational connections with students. So all the regular things we do to build relationships with students is awesome. What I love about his video, and we're just going to watch about 56 seconds of him talking, is he reminds us how powerful those small moments can be. So this video is in here for you to access later, and you can watch the whole thing if you want. But right now, we're just going to listen for about 56 seconds.
One of the things that a lot of people, when they hear this, are kind of wondering about it and almost afraid of is like, well, how do I connect with 40 kids in a classroom? And I just want to reassure people that the timeline for connecting with a person is literally milliseconds. That if you as the teacher feel regulated and confident, you can, with the tiniest little glance, make a child feel like you're paying attention to them. Because the reality is, you are. If you as the teacher are regulated and you're really in that moment listening to a student as they talk, they'll feel that. You don't need to be relationally in a personal relationship with every single kid, but you need to be relationally present and relationally respectful. And that only takes a moment. Now, the other thing that's really a powerful tool for educators is that children see how a teacher treats another student. And so if they see you treat another student that's struggling with respect and kindness, they're able to generalize that to how they will treat you. And so the challenge of being connected with kids in your classroom is not as great as somebody might otherwise think. It really, these little moments are powerful. And so in the hallway, if you see a kid that you know is in your classroom, and you just take a moment and say, hey, what class are you going to? And that wow, you noticed me. And if you say their name, little things like that literally can create a relational connection. And furthermore, those interactions are regulating. So it makes the child feel connected and safer. And which means that even though you don't realize it, you doing that for that 10 seconds in the hallway makes this student better capable of learning in the next classroom, because his cortex will be more available for business.
So I kind of love that as a little reminder, just about those little moments. And obviously that goes well beyond math, but it kind of reaffirms how important those little connections are. So it's like, okay, yes, that's definitely worthwhile. Those small moments are powerful. We will continue to do that. And then I liked also how we talked about when students are struggling, because sometimes it seems like math has this extra layer of potential anxiety for some people. And then if there is that struggle going on, that's even more important. And in this next part about the inspiring curiosity, Jo Boaler from the YouCube site, she has really great resources about mindsets and how to help students really understand that mistakes are valuable. I don't know, have you ever had that student in your class where they're trying to do something, they get it wrong, and they either like freak out or they're just like, no, I'm done, I can't do it. And it's like, hang on. So if you do have a student who you're supporting like that, if I open this up for a second, she has videos and different resources. And the nice thing about this for the K-3 students is the videos are created by junior high age kids. And so I think the younger students might appreciate seeing slightly older students in the videos. So we won't watch all of this, but I'll just give you a feel for what her videos are like here.
I've been working on this one for so long, I just can't get it right. Every time I try something, it just doesn't work. I keep on messing up. I should just give up.
Hey! We've been alerted to this area because there's a ton of brain growth going on.
What do you mean? I've been failing at this problem.
Your brain has grown so much while working on this problem?
But I can't figure out, just been making mistake after mistake. I can't do it.
Exactly. Every time you make a mistake, a synapse fires in your brain. Synapses are connections that your brain makes every time it grows and creates new pathways.
Really?
Yeah. Struggle and mistakes and challenge are great for your brain. Your brain is like a muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets. And challenging problems are great workouts.
So I should make mistakes and struggle?
Yes, we learn a lot and have a lot of brain growth, especially when we're making mistakes and working on hard problems.
So don't give up. Keep going. Some problems go unsolved for years, and that's fine. What's important is how much you learn while you're trying to solve them. Keep taking risks. Keep making mistakes.
Yeah, and your mathematical thinking process is super important and awesome. So if you keep learning and making mistakes, that's what's important.
Wow, I had no idea. I'm gonna keep working, and when I make a mistake, I'll know that my brain is growing.
So I'm going to pause it there for a second. Now Jo Boaler goes and she interviews one of the students from the video. And so they kind of just talk about making mistakes and how you don't have to feel bad about it. So it's some really nice supporting resources for any students who struggle with, trying to be perfect. And like Jackie said in the chat, on the YouCube site, the resources are all ready to go for you. And thanks for popping the link in one more time there, Jackie, if you don't mind, to our Google Slides. And I just want to show you from her site. So this is the UCube site. If you go across the top here, there's all the different kind of navigational tools. If you go to films and you go to mindset boosting videos, and then you scroll down, you'll see she's got a bunch of stuff where she interviews individual students. She talks about down here how it like speed. We're not necessarily looking for speed in math. We're really looking for deep thinking and our brains growing and changing. And this last one is the one we watch. So there's a few different videos that you might find useful depending on exactly how you're hoping to support the students that you have. So that was the inspiring curiosity. It's much easier to be curious when that sort of anxiety about making mistakes has been lowered. And then so establishing expectations. Teachers are awesome at expectations for routines and how we walk in the hallway and how do we normally start math class. All of those super important. Another expectation is, what does it mean to be good at math? And that's a really interesting question to even ask your students about. Like, what do they think it means to be good at math? And the first link is for teachers to have a look at. The second link is a resource for students. And it goes through and talks about, if I just scroll down a little bit, it's almost like these little cartoons sort of, like, what does it mean to be great at math? And she talks about here how a good mathematician can think quickly. A great mathematician can think slowly. So we can really talk about how both types of thinking are so important. And she goes on to talk about a good mathematician can achieve understanding. A great mathematician can pass it along. So now we're really talking about the communication and the reasoning and the peer-to-peer collaboration. And she goes into some more detail underneath each image here.
And Wanda, I just wanted to interject. I love about these little poster kind of ideas is bolded underneath is you can put up the poster or the little drawing, and then underneath all the writing, there's the bolded kind of discuss. Can you think of a creative approach to a math problem that you or someone else has used? Why would this help you think creatively about math? So I like that you can use the visual and then have those kind of questions and prompts and maybe use them as a starter for the first week of school. But I just love the questions and the imagery.
And it's nice how she has it all here for us to use. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Jackie. Yep. And another one last resource on her site, which is really great, that helps with the collaboration, is the group work idea. I'm going to jump ahead to one for a second, to the collaboration. And it's like, if you have students working in groups, sometimes they need some assistance in figuring out how do we work together as a group. Dr. Peter Liljadal, the fellow who wrote Building Thinking Classrooms, he often talks about the ideal group number. If you're in grade 3 or older, the ideal group number is 3 people per group. If you're in grade 2 or younger, the ideal group number is 2, because he says at the younger ages, collaboration is more at that point about turn taking, like I'll go, then you go, then I go, then you go, which is a good starting point. And as students get older, then collaboration starts to be building on each other's ideas. So this group work link here, it takes you back to the UCube site. And if you open the PDF, she does a nice job of laying out the activity, the approximate time frame, the description and the prompt and the materials that you'll need. And this activity is really a reflection for students. It's having students, asking them as a class right now to think about when they're working in a group, what are some things they do not like people to say or to do in a group when they're working on math together? And so the students think about it, they get in their groups of 2 or 3, and they talk about it. What do I really not like people to do or say when we're in a group together? What makes me feel uncomfortable? What makes me feel bad? And they talk about it. And then you get each group to share, and this becomes the class norm. So you're building this with the students together. And so once you ask them what they don't like, Then you spin it to the positive, because sometimes they can come up with what they don't like very easily. And now it's like, okay, let's spin it. And what do you really like people to do and say when you work in a group? And then as they share back, as the teacher, you're recording this on a poster, piece of paper. And I like in here too, for example, she says, if you hear a comment such as, I don't like waiting for slow people, she says, don't put it on the poster. Instead, use it as a chance to discuss the comment. And then that could be where you go back to the value of fast thinking and slow thinking. And anyways, then you end up with this shared poster that was created from the class about what people really like in group work. So that can help set the stage for that, that collaboration piece and working with students together. And I just wanted to show you, like here on the companion slides, if you also go into the note section of the slides, there's some more resources as well. Some of them are the same and the links are just laid out below, so they're maybe more easily accessible, but don't forget to look in this note section here as you're going through the slides. So this is sort of the getting to know students. The next two slides, let me just go a little larger here, have some practical ideas about how can you bring this to life in the classroom. And perhaps some of you have used some of these methods before, having students draw something they love, share it with the class. The math twist or lens you can add there is that once you're looking at someone's drawing, what math do we see in this drawing? And depending on what grade level you're working with, are students identifying shapes, numbers, patterns, whatever you might see in the drawings themselves. The survey is like a physical survey, if the four corners of the room, if it's here, the suggestion is favorite food. If you have a favorite food, if it's pizza, go to the back left corner. If it's, I don't know, kale salad, go to the back right corner. No, that'll be empty. And then as you have your four choices, again, sort of the math twist is, whoa, okay, let's look around the room. Which food is the most popular? Which food has the most votes? How many do we think? And you can kind of talk about that a little bit. And then the beliefs about math, it links back to U cubed. And I like the twist to the sharing circle. If you have students sitting together in a circle, as they're talking, they can also be clapping out their answer. So for the younger students, they're really working on that one-to-one correspondence. So it's like, and if you're into the cross-body thing, there's some research about like crossing your body as you're doing some of this. So it could be like, I am good at goat wrestling, or I will work on, I don't know, eating healthy, whatever it is that the students want to talk about. But you can kind of go around the circle and get to know them in that way. And just before I ask you guys for some thoughts, for the slightly older students, grade 2 and up, we also have a survey that's linked in here and a relationship menu. And this sharing survey, it's a really neat idea because it reminds us to remember to check in throughout the whole year. So this doesn't just happen at the very beginning of the year, it'll happen at the beginning and continue on. So if I open this, you'll see, and you'll have the link as well. And Jackie set this document up for all of us, so thank you, Jackie. You can make a copy of it, make it your own, but it gives you some questions that you can ask students, some suggested throughout the weeks. Sometimes if you're stuck for ideas, say 2 nice things about yourself, etc. Jackie, did you want to add something about this document?
Yeah, I just found that a lot of times when I'm working with teachers and building that first week of school with them, we go really hard at building relationships, talking, communicating, group work. And then we get into our kind of sometimes our old patterns, you know what I mean? And we don't come back to talking about, say one nice thing about someone in the class that you don't normally hang around. And then you say their name, you write down their name and then something nice. And you can have exit tickets, online surveys, check-ins, but how do we continue this relationship building, not only between me, the teacher, and the students, but also the students among themselves? Cliques form very quickly, very fast, And so how do we get students understand that everybody has gifts and abilities within the room? And how do we continue this engagement of this first week of school throughout the rest of the year? And so that was a big piece I think was missing sometimes with teachers, is they went really hard on all that at the beginning, but then didn't come back to some of these ideas that they worked on.
Thank you, Jackie. So lots of ideas within this document. See if something connects and feels comfortable for you. And there's also a relationship menu that was created by Charlie, who was with APLC before. And you'll see it's in the form of a PowerPoint. You can download it, and it gives you some choices, some little tiny bites, so some quick things to do with students, all the way up to some more complex work to do with students in building relationships. So how about you guys? Are there things that you have done with students? If you're here with us live, type in the chat, let us know if you want to verbally share with us, but things that you've done to get to know students that have worked really well, whether they have a math twist or not, because we can always think about how to add that twist in afterwards. And if you're watching this as a recording, please go back to the slides at the beginning and type them in that chart if you have a great idea. So anything stand out for anybody of things that you have tried? And just as I'm looking in the chat, yes, it is being recorded. So you will receive a link. Everyone who signed up will get this recording sent out to them. No, nothing popping to your mind yet. I know it's early. It still feels like the middle of August. Loretta, okay, thank you. The Ellen game, Ellen DJ game with Guess That Food on Day One. I know the headband game. Is that different, Loretta, than the headband game? And you're welcome to turn on your mic if you like, or type.
Yeah, I hope that's okay. The
Yeah.
Ellen DeGeneres game, where you blindfold two contestants, everybody else is in the audience and they can see it. You have various foods one at a time on a plate. You do the big reveal to the audience and shush them all. And then one person is blindfolded and one person isn't, and they have to taste the food and then describe it. So the person that actually, no, I think I blindfold them both. I got to refresh my brain on this because I have to do it in a week. Anyway, yeah, they have to taste the food and describe it without saying what it is. So like if you're blindfolded and you eat a cheesy and you taste it and you're a kid and you're like, I know what that is. It's a cheesy. But if you say cheesy, then you're out. But if you say it's crunchy, it's in the chip family, it's orange, it's curved like a C, blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
Okay.
everybody wants to play. It's super fun. And it's a good, like, real icebreaker to get them engaged. I do that.
Right. Thank you, Loretta. Okay, Ellen DeGeneres has some very interesting game. Hey, it sounds like that's a spin-off of, I love that example, thanks for sharing. If you're like, I have kids with allergies in my class, I'm a bit scared to try that. Obviously, each class is very different. Also, Loretta, that pulls up a great idea about her headband game, where you could have a math word, let's say, up on my forehead. Maybe mine is, I don't know, circumference, or it depends what you're working on. And then Loretta would have to try to get me to say circumference without saying any part of the word. So it's like your food game, but with words. So thanks for sharing that, Loretta.
And Wanda Felicity also added in there, she used some building thinking classroom rich tasks like from Peter Liljedahl. There's if you have Felicity, there is a lot of websites. We'll put it in the participants links in there, and they're very open-ended type tasks. So it doesn't matter the ability level of the students that you have, they can all participate in that as they go through that. Thanks, Felicity.
Exactly. Yes, those building thinking classrooms, fantastic. Yep. And Jenny, you give a biography about themselves using math facts. For example, I am 4 times 6. I love that. So all about me within numbers, which actually, Jenny, there's a great site. I think it's Sarah Vanderwolf. Someone has set up a template for that. We'll find that and we'll link it into that table as well. So thank you, Jenny. That's great. Yep. Awesome. So keep those ideas coming. It's great for you to hear from each other. We love it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Slide 5 and 6. Totally. So on that note, we do have some tasks coming up, because another great way to get to know students is through actual math tasks. So let me just scroll here for a second. We get to know our students. Yeah, so we're going to do a learning experience with you guys, and we're going to try one of these tasks. And Felicity, it's a task that you potentially could use in a building thinking classroom situation, actually. And so on this slide, what am I on? I am on slide number 11 of the companion slides. And again, notice all the links in the notes section. We have an example for kindergarten, grade 1, 2, and grade sort of 3 to 6. We're going to zero in on that middle one right now, the grades 1 to 2, because this lesson can be expanded upwards to grade 3 to 6. It can be simplified a bit, but kindergarten teachers, hang in there with us for a second, because we'll get your opinion if you could use this with kindergarteners. And if you're like, yeah, that's slightly optimistic at the beginning, we're also going to check out the kindergarten example. So numbers within numbers. What this is, if I open the grade 1, 2 link, so from the notes section below, there's grade 1, 2, and then grade 3, 6. I'm going to open the grade 1, 2 link. And again, she has it nicely set up for the activity, the time it'll take, what you need. So for this activity, we're basically going to ask students to have a look at the visuals. So that's what you guys are going to do shortly, and share what you notice or what you see. I just wanted to open this document because I wanted to show you the slightly easier version. You guys are going to have a look at numbers 1 through 20. They also have it so you can have students look at just numbers 1 through 6. So you can make this task a lot simpler. And the suggestion here, this again, it might be more for grade 1, but you guys can see what you think. But we would introduce this activity by telling students we sometimes write numbers like this, 1, 2, 3, the digits. Or we sometimes show them like this, 1 dot, 2 dots, 3 dots, etc. And then this is talking about some numbers have other numbers inside of them. For example, this number visual for 4 is made up of 4 single circles, but do you see 2 inside of the 4? So that's how we can use this as a slightly simplified version. For you folks, what we're going to do is back on the companion slides. I'm going to go large here for a second. This is the sample slide. So you have numbers 1 to 20 that you're going to look at. The question for you will be, have a look at the visual pattern. What do you notice? What patterns do you see? So we're just going to pop you into random breakout groups for probably about 5 minutes, so not too long. You're going to take a minute or two to look at these on your own. Then in your group, if you're able to turn your camera on, that's awesome when you're in your small group. And if your mic works, that's fantastic. Just say hi to each other, let each other know what grade levels you teach, and then just say, hey, what patterns do I notice? What do you see? And then your group can decide, do you want to look at this task with a grade 1, 2 lens? Do you want to talk about the numbers you see within numbers? Or do you want to look at it with the grade 3+ lens? Do you want to explore the multiples? So for example, you'll look at numbers 3, 6, 9 and have a look in what patterns do you see? Look at number 4, 8, 12. What patterns do you see there? And the reason we're getting you to do this is if you spend a little time looking at this diagram yourself first, then it makes it a lot easier to use it with students because you've already had a chance to look at some of the patterns that are actually there. So let me just escape for a second because I would like to show you This is set up so you can click, if you want to highlight something on this diagram, if you click on one of these circles, you see how it gets the blue boxes around it? You can then go to the paint can up top and choose a color, and that changes your dot to a different color. So if you're talking to your group and you would like to change the colors of your visual, you can do that. If you want to, if you're really talking about number 8, you could highlight this and copy it, and you'll notice there was a blank slide that you can use that you can paste to below. So each group will have 2 slides. You'll have the number visual and a blank slide that you can use if you so choose. So if you look on the right-hand side, you see how this has a red vertical line with the number 1. If you're in breakout group 1, this is the slide you'll use. If you're in breakout group 2, you'll go down to the slide that has the 2 in the vertical color on the right of it. So does that make sense to everybody? So what you'll need is you'll need these companion slides open, and you'll need to be at slide number 12. So you see the questions, and then you're gonna find whatever group number you're in, you're gonna find the visual. They're all the same, but then you can like mess around with the visuals on the screen. So the question is, what do you notice? What patterns do you see? And then have a look at either the grade 1, 2 example or the grade 3 example. Okay, so breakout rooms. Jackie, I'm just gonna set them up and you've done that already?
Yeah, I put about 3 to 4 people per room.
Perfect. Oh, you're speedy.
For 6 minutes.
Awesome. Okay, so once you're in your breakout room, if you can turn on your mics and camera and say hi to each other, that's awesome. Have a look at the patterns, and we'll see you back here shortly. Thank you, Jackie. Jackie, I'm just pausing about 30 seconds, and then everyone will be back with us in just about 30 seconds. So while we're waiting for the rest of the folks to come back, the question is going to be, if you have a look at this slide, if you choose one of these questions to answer about the experience you just had, we'd love to see your thoughts in the chat about how could this help you get to know your students by observing your students' work on a question like this? Or how could this help build classroom culture? So think about that a little bit, and we'll just wait till we have everyone back with us. Okay, so I think we have everyone back with us in the main room here. So for those of you who just popped back with us from the breakout rooms, if you'll just take a second the experience in the breakout room was to have a look at those slides, see what patterns that you noticed. And Pat, yeah, did you want to jump in with a comment? I see you have your hand raised. Oh, or maybe it just popped you back and you're waving to us. No worries. If you want to type us a message, please feel free to do so. So now that you're back together with us, if your students, now you only had a really quick look at these slides, the time frame for the students to look at them would be about 20 minutes. For us together, we were just dipping our toes in to sort of see some of these patterns. And if you were to use this with students, what do the patterns look like? So if you can imagine your students answering some of the questions about the slides, so seeing the visuals like this, and then answering the questions about what did you notice, what patterns did you see, maybe they were exploring the multiples, whatever your students were doing, what do you think, if you were observing and watching the students in their groups do this, take a moment and reflect on question 1 or 2 here. And yeah, and sorry, I see, yes, thank you. Yeah, this is definitely easier done in person, 100% Carrie, yes. Yeah, and Beatrice, students learn how to look at things from different perspectives and understand that there are different ways of seeing or doing things. Thanks, Beatrice. That's great. That ties back to what Felicity was saying about the building thinking classrooms. Yep. Connecting over shared observations and building off others to see what they see. Absolutely. Yep. Oh yeah, no worries, Pat. Yeah. Oh yeah, and Carrie, we will add the link to the companion slides to make sure you have them. Yeah. You'd be able to see how the kids think if they count by ones or try to find patterns. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It gives you a nice chance to listen into some conversations that they're having, seeing what they notice. The classroom culture part, you guys totally nailed it. That idea of there's multiple approaches and someone else might see something that you didn't. And yeah, an opportunity for turn and talk with a partner, followed by sharing with the whole class, for sure. Yep, formative assessment, yep. Yeah, sure. Different students are definitely going to have different strengths. You might be able to see that a little bit. Yep, exactly. Yes, totally. Yes, thank you. Okay, you're totally right. And for our kindergarten teachers, and maybe even grade one, the beginning of grade one also, if you're like, well, you know what, that's a really interesting task I might use in February. If you're like at the beginning, they might not be ready for it. There's a site, and it's in the note part of the companion slides. I'm just moving my Zoom tools. Early Math, right here, Early Math by the Erickson Institute. They have amazing resources for pre-K to about grade 2. And so we'll just watch it for like 30 seconds, but if you have a look at what these students are doing, there's also some really great observation opportunities here with an activity like this one.
If you remember yesterday, boys and girls, we read the story From Head to Toe by Eric Carle. And today we're going to do a game using the movements that the animals used in the story. Movement counts work really well with the children. It's a fun way to introduce counting, first of all, and it also allows them to experience one-on-one correspondence because they do one movement to one word count. Oh, the giraffe. Do you remember what the giraffe can do? By starting with a book, gives the children a good connection to what they're doing. I have a lot of English language learners, and they're able to see the picture of the action, and if they don't know the word, they still were able to do the action because they were able to connect to the story. The buffalo. He can raise his shoulders. Yes, just like this. Nathan, could you roll the die, please? Let's see how many times we're going to raise our shoulders. 4. Good. So what are we doing 4 times? Raising our shoulders. Count together. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So I'll just pause it there. So as you see, this is another type of activity that will really allow us to observe students, to get to know I saw someone talking about mathematical language. Absolutely. The child who rolled the dice, can these kids subitize the numbers on the dice? So you're sort of gaining this information as they're playing this game or doing this activity. And this Early Math collaborative site is great too, because they give you the video. They talk about why it's important, some big ideas related to math. If there's any downloadables, you can get those as well. For the downloads, you do need an account for this site, but it's free. So it's all free, really great kind of pre-K to grade 2 information on this Erickson Institute. So we have these sites. So let's think about planning for a second. It's like we have the rich tasks we were talking about, maybe something from the Erickson site. Now it's like, how do we put this all together? So you're thinking about your first 2 weeks and you're like, I would like something to help organize my thinking and collecting of some of these interesting sites. And some additional sites are on slide 48. There is that Erickson Math Institute we just looked at for the animal and the roll the dice activity. The U Cubed and Inspiring Math. We looked at, that's where the visual math task came from here. And then there's some rich tasks, some 3-act tasks that you might find interesting. And there's a site, if you're, someone was talking about some math routines. And if I open this mathematical thinking site for a second, this was created working together with a grade 1 teacher. And on this site, one of the pages of the site about routines and resources ready to use, it's collected all of these routines that some of them are probably very familiar to you, and they're all in one space. So for example, the would you rather, great way to get to know your students at the beginning of the year. It's a safe task where there's no wrong answers. Students just have to justify their thinking, and you learn about them as they're justifying their thinking. So putting it all together, that's where we come to this planning document. So Jackie has created this really awesome document, and you can click make a copy on the top left, and that'll just get you to make your own copy. So you will have a copy of this document. And if we just have a look at it together, so it goes through some information. On the left, you'll notice our 5 areas of focus that we've been recommending during this hour together: the building trust and beliefs, inspiring curiosity, promoting collaboration, establishing expectations, and math activities. These other 2, problem-based math units and resources, we were kind of thinking fall under math activities. So there's sort of 2 extra bits of info for you here. But as you're thinking about these key areas to focus on, down below is an area to organize the planning. So it's almost like, for example, on Monday, here's where we could put the lesson that we looked at. So today we looked at numbers within numbers, the 1 to 20 in the diagrams. We post that there. Here we have our 8 competencies in Alberta that we're encouraging across all subject areas. So it could be like, you know what, with this activity, we were really looking at problem solving and collaboration. Those were 2 key competencies we were really hoping to build up for this activity. And then down here, the competency developmental phase, this connects to Alberta Education on their website. They have the competency progressions. So here is where, from the competency progressions, if you so choose, if this is something you wanted to kind of keep track of or think of in your mind, you can pull out key supporting components of the competencies above that the students were really working on. And then the closure or consolidation is just a reminder for ourselves that when we bring students all together, what do we really want to refocus on? What were the big ideas in math that we looked at by looking at these numbers within numbers? And what were some key ideas? Like perhaps we were really focusing on growth mindset and how people could see this activity from multiple approaches. Perhaps we were really looking at, in teacher language, the hierarchical inclusions, how numbers are within number, whatever it might have been that we were looking at. And then the materials and accommodations. So there's sort of a nice space for planning out your week when you're thinking about math and what are some activities that really lend themselves well to the multiple approaches, getting to know students, and encouraging that collaboration. Jackie, did you want to add anything about this template?
Yeah, you feel free to make a copy, and then above there, there's tons of links to use. Now, of course, there's lots of information that you're getting. There might just be one site that you're like, yep, I'm going to use the U Cubed first 2 weeks of math, and I'm going to use this, and that's the only one I'm going to use, right? So everybody thinks differently and has different approaches to how they want to do it. So we wanted to kind of get rid of you having to Google and go on Teachers Pay Teachers and do all that stuff, because everything is right here on this template pretty much, and the companion slides, and the template just helps you organize your thoughts as you're trying to build that first week of school, because there is a lot of information. Pick something you like, The pattern one would probably take maybe 1, 2, even 3 days. That's part of your first week. You can have like 2 activities, and that could cover your first week of school, focusing on that relationship building, promoting that collaboration, curiosity. So everybody within this room will have different takes on what they want to do, but there's lots of options for you to be able to take.
And Jackie, thanks for adding that in, because I know it's like a group of folks here today who we don't know you ahead of time. So it's sort of like we try to have a whole bunch of different ideas, and hopefully you'll connect with like 1 or 2 ideas. So don't let this feel overwhelming. Do not try to do everything. Pick 1 or 2 things that are maybe new to you and you want to blend it in to what you're already doing in math. Thanks, Jackie. And then we're just going to wrap it up. I just wanted to mention what else you'll see in these slides in case you want to come back and have a look. There's a nice book that goes along well with that group reflection we looked at about what do I really not like and what do I really like when people do or say in a group working on math. If you feel like you want to have a book that helps support that thinking, the Fruit is Mine talks about these elephants who are unable to get this special fruit because they're all individually trying to get it. Whereas you have all these mice who are smaller and should have less of an opportunity to get the fruit. They end up being successful because they're working together. So that book is a nice one to kind of parallel with the idea of teamwork and collaboration. So that's linked in here for you. And in the notes section is the read aloud to it. So if you don't have the book, you could just have it read aloud online as you're going through it. And then, of course, when we talk about relationships and support, I would really encourage you later to click on this video about In a Million Words. It's a junior high teacher, but it can be adapted to any grade level. Just talking about how she connects with the guardians at home to say, you know your student best. I would love to hear some information from you about this child. So there's a letter here from the middle school teacher that you can take and adapt and make it work for you. So it's a starting point if this is something that you would like to consider working on. Okay, so thank you for joining us. In our last 2 minutes, we would just like you to pause and think, what is something that you are going to try? If you think about it now, it's more likely you might integrate that into your school year coming up. So is there one thing that you found that you're going to say, hey, I'm either going to look into this more deeply or I'm going to give this a try when I get with my class at school? If there is, type us a note in the chat and maybe that'll inspire a colleague who's watching this to be like, oh, interesting, I forgot about that. I'm going to try that too. So we would love to hear something sort of stood out for you. And on slide 54, there's a link to a survey that we would really appreciate your feedback on. How did this go for you today? Was there something that you would have a suggestion for us? How could we make this better? Was there something you were hoping to see and maybe didn't? Please tell us. Was there something that you did see and you really appreciated and you're like, make sure you keep this for the next time you do it? Please tell us. We would like feedback both ways. So this just helps us get better at doing it. So if you don't mind filling out a survey, very much appreciated. And as long as you have this link, so the link to the companion slides, well, maybe paste, my copy and paste isn't working. Jackie will probably paste it into the chat one more time for you. If you have that link, you have all the information we shared today along with our emails. So please feel welcome to email us with any questions, and thank you so much for joining us today.